So ornament is a fundamental part of the design, is not an ornamental part, is absolutely substantial. I put in the cover of this lecture this building by Claude Nicolas Ledoux, where you see, for example, an ornament that change completely the character of the building. To put this kind of square stone blocks around the columns, transform this normal classical columns in something of very strong or something peculiar that give an extremely specific and strange aspect of the building. So this invention is an ornamental invention and absolutely change completely the identity, defines the identity of the building. This is one of the buildings of the foundation city of La Chaux-de-Fonds, of Les Salines, that Ledoux did at the end of 18th century near Lyon. So this, for example, is a very successful building, is a pavilion that Thomas Hederick did for the Expo Shanghai 2010, and is a building where ornament, function, and technology are the same thing. In a sense, it's a building that does not exist visually. We don't have any perception of the building. We just perceive the main element that forms the building. That is this rod, repeated thousands of times, that has a very specific function and a very specific form. So the building, in a way, is its ornament, is transformed in its ornament. And the ornament, in this case, is also the message of the building. Maybe you remember the famous duck by Robert Venturi, that restaurant that was built in the form of a duck to attract the attention of the drivers. And this is the same thing, but extremely more refined and not so understandable, because you see something that has the face of an ornament, the appearance of an ornament, but you don't know what it is, because it's something completely new. While the duck is extremely recognizable, also from a child, this is something that is mysterious, and in some way, there is the substitution of this mysterious element with the architecture. You see, in the plan, for example, is a quite strange presence, the pavilion in the center of a more normal platform. So this is the appearance of the pavilion. Also the base, the context of the pavilion designed by Hederick is quite interesting. And this is the interior. No? This road are 60,000 transparent fiber optic roads, 70.5 meters long, that cross the building. So they are perceived in the interior of the building, presenting everyone a specific seed, and on the other outer side of the building, they make the real volume, the real presence, the external facade of the building. This is the section where you see the real structure of the box of the building is absolutely invisible, not perceivable, and is interesting also this kind of artificial geography that hosts the building, and detaches the building from the normal ground level of the fair, of the expo. This is another view of the interior. So this ornamental element is the building. No? There is nothing else than that. These are the roads under construction. These are the rods in the phase of the assemblage. And this is the detail of the pavilion under construction and detail of the rods. Again, this small animals, seeds, etc. So it's a huge showcase. Okay, but what if we think to the history of architecture of European, Italian architecture, we know that ornament and architecture are the same thing. For all the Renaissance architects like Palladio, like Vignola, like Alberti, like Serlio, and then after many others, architecture is the system of the orders. And the orders are mostly based on ornament. So the orders keep together basic elements, super basic elements of construction, like pillars, beams, roof, pavement, and establish the rule of the ornament of these elements. So the pillar is the column, and the column has to be designed and built along very specific rules. So that make the ornament, the capital, the tablature, everything is extremely sophisticated and is absolutely useless in terms of construction, is extremely useful in terms of expression of the building. So for Palladio, for example, architecture is the 4 orders or the 5 orders, depending if you consider the Tuscany or not. So you see, for example, here in the Basilica del Redentore, one of the churches, the 2 churches that Palladio built in Venice, you see how far is the distance between the construction and the ornament. The facade of the church is a beautiful exercise about the orders. You see that you have how many pediments you find in the facade. There are at least 4, maybe 5. So it's a composition of a Templar facade that is decomposed and recomposed along a series of exercise of architectural composition. But on the right, you see the entire church that is built in bricks. It has a completely another consistency, another style. Also, if you imagine that, for example, that high walls are evidently of medieval tradition, just to keep the static of the roof and the entire church. So the detachment from the ornament and the construction is extremely visible. In a sense, we find here that schism that Colas wrote about in the Religions of New York, describing the separation between the facade of the New Yorker buildings and their interiors. You have a skyscraper with a beautiful, homogeneous design, absolutely regular facade, and behind the facade you have, like in some buildings examined by Colas, you have a gym, you have office, you have houses, you have shopping, you have an hotel. So you have everything behind a facade that is absolutely independent. This is another sample of the kind of building where form and ornament are the same thing. This is again Claude Nicolas Ledoux. This is a building never built for the city of Chaux, the same city where is the building that I put in the cover. And this here again, the system of the building is its ornament. So the building is considered as a structure that can control and host the river. So the river passes through the building, and the building has the form of a tube, of something that just contains the water. So this extremely strong manipulation of architectural language takes to an hyper-functionalist, in a way, solution where the form is derived from one function, just one function that is not an architectural function, but is an infrastructural function. So this, in a way, is an inhabited infrastructure. And this kind of infrastructural aspect is the very important ornamental part of the building. This is another personage like Ledoux that can help us in understanding what is ornament. This is Giovanni Morelli. Giovanni Morelli was an historian of art. He was half German, half Italian, half something else, a strange cosmopolitan European scholar, a super expert of painting, especially of Italian painting. And Morelli invented a system, a scientific system, to understand who was the author of paintings. You know that establishing the authorship of paintings is extremely important for the market of art, changed in the value of a painting of 10 or 100 times, because if it's Raffaello, is incredibly high the value, but it is not so sure. There is, you know, the bottega. So and this is a peculiar and central focus for history of art and for art market. So Morelli wrote this book explaining this theory that the authorship of the paintings was not to be found in the main part of the buildings, but in details. So this is another very important aspect, in my opinion, to look at details, and details that are in a way not so in first plan, no? So the less important details. So studying anatomy, Morelli discovered that the way painters draws hands, feet, noses, or small details of the human body, especially, absolutely was different for every artist, and help a lot in understanding the authorship. No? The Morellian method. This is a text by Christopher Nygren. The Morellian method is based on the belief that painters reveal their true identity in the places where they were expending the least attention. We can imagine the same thing for architects and for us too, for your projects too. Every painter wants to make sure that the Virgin's face is beautiful, and that beauty generally follows a fairly generic pattern based on Western ideals of beauty. Painters reveal their true identity in other places, the parts of the painting about which they care less. So this is if you apply this system to architecture, you understand how important is detail and how is important is detail for ornament. And you can find there maybe the real nature of your project, the real focus of your design. And this is, for example, how Morelli explained that you can understand that from this element, this here, you understand this is Filippo Lippi, this is Filippino Lippi, this is Luca Signorelli, this is Bramantino, this is Mantegna, this is Giambellino, Bonifazio, Sandro Botticelli, Bellini, etc. So to understand authorship through details of human body. Another very important contribution about ornament was given in 1908 by Adolf Loos. Adolf Loos wrote this beautiful text that you find in PDF on internet, that is Crime and Ornament and Crime, Ornament und Verbrechen. And in his beautiful architecture, Loos developed a very strange attitude towards ornament. no? Denying it and using it a lot. And also wrote that the evolution of culture is synonymous with the removal of ornament from utilitarian objects. Since ornament is no longer organically linked with our culture, it is also no longer the expression of our culture. This is true, but this is also fake. You see here the elevations of Villa Möller by Adolf Loos, 1928, where is clear in a way that the composition of the elevations is not related to any specific ornamental attitude. Now the building looks naked completely, but also, for example, the volume protruding from the facade, the street facade that you see on the left part of the slide, is clearly something that Loos should declares that is derived from the interior organization of space, but has a real great impact onto the facade, and we can consider that an ornamental part of the facade, that room protruding in the middle of the square facade over the street. This is another villa by Loos, Villa Müller in Prague. Again, you see this totally naked architecture. Also, there is, for example, is missing that kind of compositional attitude that Le Corbusier always had. There is something like a careless disposition of windows and openings and the protruding volumes. But these are the very poor, in a way, very abstract composition of the facade, but the interior is fully ornamental. No? The nakedness of the exterior is has the counterpart of a super elegant, refined, with the richness of materials. For example, in the outside, we have just one simple plaster wall. In the interior, we have a lot of boiserie, of marbles, of carpets, of beautiful payments, of any kind of element that make the building rich and absolutely full of ornamental aspects. And this is, for example, now of the same villa, where you see the external wall, that this is the Morellian detail. No? This external wall is very similar to the wall that into the house consider this the stairs, keeps the stairs. This is a more contemporary, is closer to us building, the Demenil collection by Renzo Piano. And this is, for me, a very interesting example where a technological element, in a way like the rod in the UK pavilion, but if the rod is a system of communication, it's a system of exhibit, you know, it's the exhibit itself that becomes the building. Here is one technological element, the most important one, that becomes the symbolic element of the building, the super ornamental element of the building. Here we are in Texas, is a museum hosting the Demenil collection. Over there is this closed box with the storage of works of art, and under there is this huge platform that takes the light mostly from the skylight. So the design of the skylight becomes the design of the building and the design of also the ornament of the building. You see, the building is very simple in a way. It's just a series of boxes or simple volumes. And this is the study of this element. The beams of the roof support this spatial element. You see here Sunji Ishida of the Renzo Piano workshop. This is Renzo Piano Young that is under the skylight, experiencing in the model the kind of light that passes through these elements. So these elements, like waves, are very well studied, prototyped, etc., and at the end becomes absolutely the main element. You see also, for example, the size of this element, how big it is. Is largely the bigger element, the constructive element of the building. Is a very complicated system. Probably the thickness of this roof will be at least 1.5 meters, maybe 2, or 1.80 meters, something like that. And the system is in every section, in every view, in every aspect, the building. So you see here the study of the lighting system integrated with artificial lights. And these are the studies, technical studies of the beams, the supporting systems, designed together with Peter Rice, that was a great engineer. And this is the system that covers indoor and outdoor space. So also is very interesting, the piano used for the walls of the building, a very simple timber wall that quoted the shingle style, the domestic architecture of the States. And over that put something hyper technological and highly organic also in the shape. And these are details of the skylight, the beam. Okay, this is a book that recently, 12 years ago, kept to our attention again the question of the ornament, because the modernist tradition in a way is addressed towards the idea that ornament is a crime. The decision, the expression, the famous text by laws remained for a lot of years, for quite a century, in a way inhibiting the use of the word and the thinking of the ornament. This book was very interesting, edited by Farshid Moussavi with Michael Kubo, and is a collection of drawings made by students that analyze famous buildings of the last more or less 100 years, starting from the ornament. The ornament for them is basically the facade. So how is designed the facade, and how the ornamental elements of the elements of the facade are used in this ornamental sense. So how to create a specific effect through the use of the elements of the facade. So this kind of section, of course, are very important. These sections, the section when often we see that in some project we have just 2 lines, this is a glass facade. But how can be a glass facade? How can be a wall? How can be a brise soleil? How can be the shape of a facade? All these are the decisions, are design choices that really change completely the building, and also define the success or the problems of the building. The classification of ornament in this book is in this kind of 3 list of categories. The first one is the depth, from the deepest to the thinnest. So they say that the ornament can be derived by the entire form of the building, like for example, the Ledoux house of the river, from the structure of the building, something that probably Jacopo will talk about later. The screen, so a more thin element between the indoor and the outdoor, and the surface, just the external surface. The second categories of classification are the material, that is from the most intrinsic to the most extrinsic. This is not easy to understand because it's not material in the material sense. Material in the sense is that we could also call the inspirational aspect of the facade, but you will understand better when you see these samples. And three, the effect. The interplay between depth and the specific material produces ornament. So is the first category plus the second one produce the final effect of the facade. So these are the four categories of the first list. Form includes those buildings where the entire building organization is used to produce the resulting expression. For example, you should imagine in which kind of category is the building you are designing now. Structure includes those cases that use the load-bearing structure to produce the ornament. Screen includes those cases that operate through layers inserted between the interior and the exterior, maintaining some visibility of the interior. Surface include those cases that add an independent layer entirely detached from the building interior. So, for example, this is an abacus of choices that probably you can make this exercise. You can decide my building or our buildings are in the screen category, in the structure, in form, or in surface. And this is the list of the content where you see, for example, it's clear here the material. No? The material can be the program, can be the construction, can be the cladding, can be the light. No? It is a theme in a way, or the shape, etc. The pattern. So it's the main theme of the composition. Maybe we can read that in this way. Okay, and this I just show you some of the samples, not all of them, of course, of these categories. No? The first one is the form category, with the building organization is used to produce the resulting expression. No? For example, this is the Ray Suisse Tower by Norman Foster, where the form of the building is its own ornament in itself. This spiraling form that generates entirely every aspect of the building: the structure, the ornament, the windows, also the climate control, etc. And these drawings, I think, are very useful for us because show us a system of representing technical and design aspects of the building without entering in super technological details, but understanding how the building could be made and which kind of effect we can obtain, which is the goal of our design. And this is the realized building, where you see that form, structure, ornament, everything is absolutely compacted in one system that take in everything. This is Norman Foster descending the ramp of the bike. And this is the entire tower. This is an historical, wonderful building designed in the end of the 40s by Frank Lloyd Wright in Racine, United States, and is the Johnson's Works laboratory, where there are two main buildings that are beautiful. One is this tower, where the effect is banded. The theme is cladding, and in this tower, Frank Lloyd Wright used a very refined solution. You see here the Pyrex tubes that cover completely the exterior facade and create a space between them and the glass window. Also, the band is formed by this coating of bricks that break the continuity of the glass Pyrex tubes. The Pyrex, not glass tubes. And this is a section of a double floors with a double height space, the continuity. This, for example, is a very simple way to establish another scale. No? Don't showing the real floors from the outdoor, but doubling the height of the floors using this system. So a drawing like this is extremely clear and show perfectly what is the intention of the architect. This is the general plan. This is the tower. And on the right, you see the office space, the main office space that is another masterpiece by Frank Lloyd Wright. This is the tower. The tower has this form, has this strange nucleus with the elevators. This is the stair. It's not very visible. This is another drawing. You see here the section with this kind of interior terraces that are suspended over the lower floor. Beautiful drawings by Frank Lloyd Wright. And this is a more clear general section. You see the structure is entirely concentrated into the central nucleus. Everything is cantilevered. And we have on the right, you see this extremely fascinating effect of a banded volume that is quite dematerialized. No? This dematerialization is possible because instead of the glass, there are the Pyrex tubes. So the facade is not just one glass, but is something that has a thickness, and this thickness is semi-transparent. So this creates this the virtuality of the volume, no? That it seems really immaterial. And also change a lot in function of the light, in function of the climate, the sunlight, or the clouds. They change completely because the Pyrex becomes more transparent or less transparent, of course. This is another view of the tower and the office space. This is the interior. You see the central nucleus and the Pyrex facade from the inside. This is another system. These are just elements that keep rigid the double height windows, but the entire structure is supported by the cantilevered slabs over every 2 floors. This is the Pyrex tubes, 7,000 Pyrex tubes used as a translucent glazing. This is the tower under construction. This is another plan with all the functions. I can put the lecture on beep, so eventually you can see better all these details. This is a drawing by Frank Lloyd Wright, the tower. Other view. And this is important, no? The Pyrex and the brick and the stone. So this kind of care for the materials, for the proportion, for the texture of the materials, really create and control the image of the building. It's absolutely fundamental that you think to this kind of detailing of the building, and you control them and you choose them in relation of the entire image of the building. This is another section, and you see here the other strange, interesting invention of Frank Lloyd Wright are the pillars, no? The study of the pillars. Like Ledoux in the building in the cover, he didn't use just basic pillars, but he invented and designed a series of different pillars. You see here the pillars. In this lower part, there is one kind of pillar, always making something that between the mushroom and the umbrella, no? That was the references. This is another kind of umbrella, and this is also a third kind of umbrella column higher. This is the most extraordinary space, the one on the right, again, a double height office space covered with the skylight. That is this one. You see the mushroom columns, beautiful, and the continuous skylight taking light into the large office open space. This is another view. This is a detail. Again, there are the glass tubes, the Pyrex tubes, the non-supporting wall, the cantilevered floor slab, the glass tubes, the support, etc. Here is the mushroom. And this is the roof. The roof where all the lighting system has a double roof. Always the skylight is a volume, is never one glass, is always a double system, very refined. For example, there is for sure also artificial light inside there, a system of controlling natural light, etc. And you see here all the system of the Pyrex tubes that characterize, together with the bricks and the stone, the entire buildings, all the different parts of the complex. And these are the three pillars. No? This is in carport, in the garage. This is in the main room, in the open space, and this is in the lobby. So variation. So a column has to be designed, like in Palladio times, like in Ledoux times. A column is a product of a design. This is in the lobby, the lower umbrellas. In the carport, and you have seen before the ones in the office space. The materialization, this is the tower of wind, where the team, the program, the material is the light. No? The light becomes the protagonist of this very simple project. This is a chimney for taking up the air. I don't remember if it's a parking or a train station or a factory. And is in the middle of a public space, and is just a concrete tube. And Toyo Ito was called just to transform. This is an interesting landmark. You know? There is no footer function, if not the chimney, but all the system is organized to create an ornament that have light, change consistency, as a series of variations appearing in different hours, etc. So the square is the chimney, and the elliptical volumes is just a facade, is an applied facade that express a series of contents, of visual, of architectural contents that are completely detached from the real nature of the artifact. This is on the left, the original chimney, an horrible thing in the middle of a crossroad, and the project of Toyo Ito transformed that in an urban landmark. So you see here, again, it's beautiful, the drawing. The drawing is not hyper-technological, it's not super technical, but it is super architectural. Shows which are the elements that make the face of the building and the architectural nature of the building. These are the different aspects that the tower keeps in different times. This is another building by Future Systems. Is a Selfridge department store, and here the program, the content is the shape. Now, the shape is the main aspect, is the ornament of the building. Now, the shape creates the ornamental part of the building. The building is quite simple. It is a huge container made in concrete. Over there is a plastic membrane, and over there are over 15,000 discs in metal, aluminum, that make the entire building something very reflective, very light, and very ornamental. No? This simple ornament repeated 15,000 times create the image is the building, create the image, but not just the image, create the identity, the architecture of the building. And of course, it's very important, the shape. The building is not just a cube, is not just a box, but is a very refined, well-tailored, organic form. You see here the concrete and steel floor slab. The drawings, again, I keep your attention to the drawings. The drawings on the left side of the slide are very simple, but very clear in showing the role and the importance of the main elements of the facade and of the building. This is the plan. No? The form is completely derivated from the free space of the lot. It's not designed in a way, and this is the elevation. The section is a shopping mall. And this is the building into this is the urban situation, with a very strong and brave relation with the old church. This is the facade with the disc, the aluminum disc. Of course, the problem, this kind of building, is how to open that, how to create an opening into this perfectly continuous, smooth facade. So you have to invent something that, in a way, put another element, another color, another material, another form in contact with the huge whale. The second kind of theme, the second theme is structure. So where structure includes those cases that use the load-bearing structures. The structures create the ornament of the building. This is a beautiful church built in 1960 by the great Uruguay architect Eladio Dieste in Atlantida. And is a building where Dieste was a master in using bricks in advanced technological solution, structural solution. And this church has this kind of undulating wall. You see down there in the lower part of the building, this is the profile of the wall. And over there you see the roof profile. So the combination of these two different undulated surfaces create a beautiful space and a beautiful structure. You see here are the undulating wall with a very refined geometrical construction, and this is the base of the wall, the form of the walls. And this here is clear the section, the form of the roof. the combination of the two generate a beautiful structure. You see here the church under construction. For example, here the form is so strong that you can put openings absolutely as you like. No? There are small openings, small windows, don't follow any understandable order, because the gigantic order of the wall is so strong that you can make everything. No? Another image of the wall. And this is the very interesting relation between the wall, the perimeter wall, and the roof. This is a beautiful tower built in Louis Sullivan. You know, Louis Sullivan was one of the first architects of skyscrapers, or we can call them towers, at the beginning of 20th century in Chicago. And the Carson Pirie Scott department store is this beautiful building that has this extremely refined choice, that all the ornament is not over the external facade, but is in these elements around in the void around the windows. So is a kind of optical effect that you always, of course, you always see the ornament, but the ornament is never exactly onto the facade. It's always in this 90-degree position in reference with the facade. So you see this very naked, smooth facade, but inside every window there is a very refined, very rich ornament. So this is the ornament of the building. This decision that the thickness of the building is the space where ornament is. And this gives the building an incredible richness, no? Transform a very simple pattern of continuous rectangular windows in a series of, in a very rich perception. You see here, the window space becomes the richest point of the building. And also all the details, you see the lines through the stones, the cornice around the windows, the small columns around this bow window-like. So everything is extremely well designed and cared. Alternating flat and worked surfaces. And worked surfaces are always orthogonal to the facade. And this is how exactly the way you perceive the building from the street. When you pass under the building, you have this kind of perception of the facade. This is you see the roof from below, again, the capitals, a beautiful design in the building. This is the tower after 50 years after Sullivan arrives, Miss Van der Rohe, and designed the most iconic tower of international style era, that is the Seagram building in New York, 1958, that is based on verticality. All the system is reduced to the pattern of the curtain wall. The curtain wall that is, of course, supported by a major structure that you see here in the corner, the huge pillars, and then there is this smaller H pillars, beams that support the entire curtain wall with the bronze, beautiful material, very elegant, but the elegance is, in this case, following the Mies motto, less is more. So it's just windows and the supporting system of the curtain wall. This is the famous corner of the Seagram, where the facade are just finished, don't meet, remain completely detached with a very elegant and rational solution. These are other views from below the tower, the lobby, the facade of the building. This is another building very interesting, where the structure generates the ornament. This is the Prada Iorama store by Herzog de Meuron, and that is based on this diagrid. This diagrid that generates everything: the structure, the windows, the doors, the form of the building. The system is very refined because the diagrid is not regular. Every element, the elements have different forms. Of course, this is possible through a digital construction of the project, and the panels have three different conditions. They are inflected, outflected, or flat. And the composition of the three conditions generate, as you see in the diagram on the left, bottom left, a large series of different effects. This is the system, the structural system attached to the slab. This is the entrance. This is a space for testing the Prada shoes. Another place for testing things. The corner, and this is the different panels that you see are introverted and extroverted, and transform this flat facade in a more variated and can produce interesting light effects. This is another interesting project, is the Serpentine Pavilion by Toyo Ito and Cecil Balmond, where the effect is random and the theme is the pattern. Now, they invented, through the manipulation of the structure, invented the system that produced, you see here, the system starts very simple. How to reduce the span between 2 points? You make 1/3, 2/3. Then you connect the other 1/3, 2/3, and in this way you continue. You go ahead rotating, and at the end you create this grid that is irregular but has its own perfect logic that reduces a lot the span. So every element has a very small span, and the building is derived from this logic. And this part, of course, the part between the structure can be left empty, transparent, or can be filled with solid material. So the general system is like this, very, very thick, but also very light. And you see here the representation of the real pavilion, with where roof and walls follow exactly the same logic. And this is the pavilion in Hyde Park in London. This is the Dominus Winery by Herzog de Meuron, where the effect is rusticated, and the theme, the material, as they say, is construction. So how is built the building is its own ornament, and the effect is of extreme rustication. The invention, or anyway, the choice of Herzog de Meuron was to use the gabions, metal gabions, filled with stones. And the stones, of course, are smaller in the lower part and bigger in the higher part, because bigger the stone, lighter is the wall, because you have more voids between drawing with the section and the gabion system. The mezzanine level, you see the cellar level are the smallest stone below, the mezzanine level medium stone, the office level larger stones that are lighter and also keep more light inside. This is a section of the gabions wall, a plan of the winery sections, detailed sections of the wall, the detail of the gabion, the building. A very rough construction. There is this decision to have this rustic, very rural, very rough style in any detail. No? The steel, the stone, the concrete, everything is very rough and very hard. This is exactly the contrary. No? This is a super smooth building designed by Sanaa, Kazuyo Sejima, Ruya Nishizawa in Tokyo. Is a Christian Dior store where all the facade is derivated by the drawing, the design of these pleats. You know? Every pleat you see is quite the same, but the composition of them generate this effect of curtain, of a very light facade. This is the molding of the plates, the colors, the positions. So the invention of one element is enough to generate a beautiful facade that for all the other parts is absolutely just basic. This is the representation, the study of the facade. So this section and a view of the corner. Again, there is an effect of translucency, of semi-transparency that make the building very light, very dematerialized, especially, of course, in the night. This is, the Sendai Mediatek that you have already seen in other lectures. This beautiful building by Toyo Ito, where the material is the cladding, because the cladding, the effect is discontinuity, because the cladding changed completely for every facade, and also in the same facade is different. You see the south facade, west facade, north facade, east facade. This is can be an interesting choice because of climate control, because of the control of light, in the lights in the natural light inside, but also is a compositional choice to define different aspects, different character of the building to different elevations. And you see here the beautiful representations of a different cladding system. Here you can take a lot of interesting suggestions, I think, in this drawing. This is the scheme. Okay, we already talked about the columns inside the building, selection plans, etc. These are interior views, and the exterior view where you see how the cladding is independent. No? You see, for example, on the facade on the right, different levels have a completely different cladding. See here the detail of the steel frame supporting the glass panels. This is important, the quality of the design of these elements, and the rods taking up the curtain wall, joining the curtain wall with the main structures or secondary structures. This is the entrance at the city level. This is another story in Tokyo, designed by Jun Aoki for Louis Vuitton, and the content in this case is the branding. The material is the branding, the brand of Louis Vuitton, and the effect is kinetic. You know, is a movement, an effect of movement. So starting from the logo that you see on the right, the logo is used as the projection with this glazing, the perforated stainless steel, Pyrex tubes, like in the Frank Lloyd Wright project, and all this make a system, an optical system from outside into the shop through the Louis Vuitton logo, and through this kind of glasses that control the view. These are the view angles you see, so you can see just through one glass, of course, one tube, but then you perceive this series of optical elements that create this very abstract effect. This is the facade, 28,000 transparent glass tubes, 10 centimeters in diameter, put in this length, create again, like in the Frank Lloyd Wright, no? the thickness of the transparent material create a beautiful effect. And then behind there is the logo, the tissue with the logo. No, not the tissue is I think is a metal grid with the logo. You see here this beautiful effect of dematerialization. It's interesting that to dematerialize a building, you need a lot of materials, and you need to use the right materials to compose them in the right way. Again, the facade, the logo, the glass tubes, the logo grid. So it's important that the facade is not just one element, but is a composition of different elements, also in a very consistent space, no? Because from the glass to the logo, there is maybe at least 1 meter or more. And this depth creates the effect of the interesting effect of the facade. This is the Young Museum, a beautiful museum in San Francisco by Alexandre Rocca. And here the material is the image and the effect is differentiated. So there is basically one system of covering the entire building with a metal sheet, but the treatment of this metal sheet has a lot of variation. So a lot of variations, but always inside the same theme. So this the pixelation in a way of the landscape that was the starting point from the design of these surfaces, and these are the pixelation, the kind of pixelation that they did into the panels of the facade and also of other elements. The superposition of 2 panels, 6 different diameters of perforation, etc. So these are systems of controlling the light, but also of generating an interesting facade for the building. You see here again, the depth of the facade is very important, creating interesting effect and working really with the semi-transparency of materials, the filtering of the light. You see here the building completely covered with this kind of steel sheets. And this is the effect. The effect is extraordinary. Again, there is a kind of dematerialization because the building is very heavy, the steel structure is very important, but this kind of semi-transparency has a beautiful effect of lightness. These are other views of the museum. Sorry. Very, very abstract. everything, all this steel is corten, is rusty steel. The cantilevered platform of a canopy, an inner courtyard. You see the pattern, the texture of the grids are beautiful. Light effect into the courtyards. This is that kind of curtain suspended at a distance from the glass facade. The tower. Again, when you get close to the building, you understand that everything is semi-transparent. You can see through the skin of the building, through the bones of the building. You see here the grids. Okay, this is another interesting, beautiful tower by Jean Nouvel in Barcelona. The color is the material, and differentiation, again, is the main aspect. So there is a system, again, there is a very depth facade, a system of controlling the light, a system of glass colored, no, sorry, of color panels that transform the glass. So the glass are not colored in itself, but take colors because of the panels that are behind them. The reflection give the glass a very interesting effect of colors that is not just colors, but are very aerial, are very atmospherical, and of course change. So you see here the color panels and the transparent glass and all the system, electronic system of control of the movable glasses. See here the detail. And this is the system, no? the color panels, the continuous glass with quite a small pace that make the tower bigger than it is really. That is a huge tower for the Company of the Waters of Barcelona. Near here from near the Sagrada Familia. This is another beautiful sample, the Kunsthaus Bregenz by Peter Zumthor. The light is the material, and luminosity, the control of light, the filtering is the main thing. You see here how the panels stay together, that are shingle system of edge glass panels, so they are close one to the others, but always leave some space, and the light can pass through them. You see here the system, this part is important, like in the Turak bar, in the other project, the space that you put between the outdoor and the indoor. This not accessible space from the ceiling to the roof is where you can really control and treat and transform the light, like in the Menil, like in the Johnson's works. You see here again this space from the wall, from the interior facade and the exterior facade need space, need to be large to treat the light and to filter that. Here are the sections and plans of the building. The interior of the upper floor with this beautiful ceiling. A view of the interior with the panels that have this very filtered and smooth light penetrating indoor. And the beautiful treatment of the shingle style glass curtain wall of the exterior. You see in detail. You see the entrance of the Kunsthaus. Another view. Okay, the last chapter is surface. and include those cases that had an independent layer entirely detached from the building interior. So this is another very famous building by Ernst de Meuron, one of the first ones they did in 1989, where the cladding is the material and the effect is weight. No? Sometimes we want to be buildings that look light. Sometimes we want to make buildings that look very, very, very weight. So in this case, they treated this this warehouse for the Ricola, this warehouse with a very refined system of cladding. The warehouse is just a box, but this timber system is extremely refined with this super elegant cornice at the top and a system of graduating wooden system that change in size, growing from the base, from the ground to the top. This is the beautiful system, giving a lot of materiality, a lot of texturing very strongly the facade. This is the detail with the Ricola van. So how to transform a warehouse in a temple, but also remaining very rough, very, very factory style. This is another building, the signal box by Alessandro de Meuron, made in 1994. Again, the cladding is the material and the effect is the deep. This is a very bad construction in concrete in the middle of the railway, in the Basel station, in the middle of the rails, and they wrap completely the building with these copper louvers that cover everything, the concrete part, the windows part, etc. Transforming, you see here, for example, that the copper lists, the copper elements are pleated here, became horizontal in correspondence with the window, just to let the light pass through. And in other situations, they remain flat, closing completely the facade. But passing from the vertical to the horizontal position or diagonal one is very smooth, is very refined, generating this kind of beautiful effect that you see here. This is the passing of the copper elements from the vertical to the horizontal position, creating this dark shadow in the middle of the building. Again, is a very strong effect of the materialization obtained through the materials, the design. This is the other elevations of the cabin, the building. This is another building by Ernst de Meuron, the Laban Dance Center. Color is the material, and tonal is the effect. Here is the polycarbonate that again using the space between the external cladding and the interior, the internal cladding, that in this case is glass, create an atmospheric effect of colors and of materials. You see here the elevations, and this is the position of the external surface of polycarbonate attached to the main structure. The glass is into the main structure. The polycarbonate is a completely separated structure, autonomous. And this is this effect again of the materialization of lightness, of atmospheric colors. This is another Ricola warehouse by Ernst de Meuron, where image is the material and gradated is the effect. this here was used one detail of a picture, this C-screen, the image attached to, projected into the polycarbonate panel. So again, is completely polycarbonate over a concrete box. But in this case, there is this ornamental, this decoration that is applied to all panels. You see here, the roof of the canopy, the ceiling of the canopy is completely decorated with this flower. This is the building. And this is the last building, the last project of this series, I think, where image is the material and the effect is the brand. The architect is Frank Gehry, and this is the Santa Monica garage. Santa Monica garage is a very basic construction, very simple. It's the garage of the Santa Monica Place shopping mall. And this is, and Gehry used a metal mesh to cover, to wrap entirely this very simple construction that was already existing, and he wrote over there the name of the shopping mall. So it was a very ornamental operation. Just they called the architect to make the facade, and Gehry did that, imagining this, designing this huge screen and using the metal mesh to write over. So again, the effect is a composition of different materials. There is no real letters, there is no real wall, but the composition of things create the image. And this is the Santa Monica parking lot. There is this other building that I want to talk a little about, because it's a beautiful building where the relation between structure, form, is very related with the cars, of course. Is the Lincoln building by Herzog de Meuron. It is a beautiful building completely dedicated to cars. You see here, I don't show you here, the ramps, the parking, the spiraling ramps going up the building. These are the sections, and this is the view of the building. That is, it looks like, a naked building, an unfinished building, where the structures remain visible, and the structure becomes the real representation of the architectural interest. The architectural is the ornament of the building. Some images of the interiors, very, very rough, very, very naked. Okay, this is another building, beautiful building by RCR Architects, is the Museum Soulage, Rodé. And again, there is the material and the structures that give the form of the building. Also, is interesting the relation with between the building and the sloping. How to put a building over a slope, how to manage this relation. All the building is covered with curtain surfaces, and is made of a series of abstract boxes, where the treatment of the curtain, the effects of the curtain, becomes a very strong ornamental value for the building. And these are, again, an interesting system of connecting different levels and of managing a great unity of the buildings, also differentiating functions, different volumes, different scales, etc. This is a view from the road. Okay, I think that we can stop. I can stop here, and thank you very much for your attention. I don't know if you want to put questions or if you want to make a break, and then we start again with the lecture by Jacopo.
Do you have any question, guys? No, if I can say something very quick, I think it was a very interesting, especially useful lecture for students now, and also from a cultural point of view, because it was very interesting in finding a new idea of ornament that is not the one that they probably read from Adolf Loos, but this also the title of the book of Mostafavi, that is the function of ornament, perfectly makes clear that is not something that is just added, but it is architecture in its pure form. My lecture will be titled "Structure as Architecture," and in this case, the lecture could have been ornament as architecture, because it was not just something that was added, but it is the real spirit of the architecture that Professor Rocca showed us. And that is very interesting, because also in the general, let's say in the common language, the ornament is something that is added and it is not necessary. In this case, they were necessary to the architectural shape, I mean.
Thank you, Jacopo. Absolutely, I agree. What I wanted to emphasize in this lecture.
Yes, if there are no, I mean, meanwhile we wait for maybe some question by the students, I would like to also make some comments. I think as well the lecture was very interesting and important, and I'm really, I don't know, I found myself thinking that maybe this conversation about the ornament is really the, I don't know, maybe the best and more clear also way, more direct way to explain what architecture is, probably, no? What contemporary architecture is, for sure. And I'm also interested very much. I think it's very also, I mean, I'm interested, but I think it's very relevant. It's very relevant nowadays how this research, this use of ornament is becoming also more and more for some architects, for some group of architects, group of firms, also a way to express a bit a position, no? Because I can think about many. Now I have in my mind, for example, like a Tone Vassal that use that make a use of ornament very I don't know. I would say the word political, but it's not really political. But it's really clear, no? Because they use ornament materials in a very raw way, and they make very evident in the use of ornament, the study of ornament, the connection of their buildings with the global ecologies and global economies. And I think that today it's a category very interesting and also very, I mean, unavoidable category, let's say, to think about architecture. And I was also, during your lecture, I was also try to make this, I was doing this reflection a bit provocative that maybe I can, I can extend to UX. We can also involve some students if they're interested in. Of course, we know that now after your lecture, we know even better that ornament and architecture are the same thing. So I was doing this attempt to try to think about some architecture where I cannot locate an ornament, no, and it's not possible in the end. I couldn't think about any example, and so I was thinking that maybe it's interesting because you can't detach architecture from ornament, but somehow we can say that when there is not ornament, it's not architecture. I want to say that somehow ornament it's what define what is architecture and what is just buildings. I don't know. I mean, when you can detach the ornament from the architecture, then it's not. Probably it's just normal buildings and where ornament it's put there for an old idea of ornament, no, for a traditional idea of ornament that it's totally overpassed right now.
Also, modernist idea of ornament. No?
Yes.
We have the worst buildings use the usual modernist ornament, like terraces, the cornice of the windows, the cladding. You know, there is a repertoire of usual elements that anyway make architecture not interesting. Anyway. If you don't design those elements, your building will be not interesting.
Yes.
I agree totally. Yeah, the deep, yes. In a way, ornament is architecture for sure. It's a complicated question, but this can help us in having the right approach to design, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think this thinking in this with this perspective is really is super helpful. I think in any phase of the design process.
Yeah.
And it's also a very helpful and very revealing research analysis key on buildings as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gino,
I also wanted to say something, because I think on this theme that you're talking about, in a way, I have in mind the examples of Barozzi Vega, for example, in Switzerland, where the whole facade is made with basically an ornamental element that is repeated over and over in the whole facade, and it changes material, but the shape of the ornament that composes the facade keeps being the same. So it's somehow the ornament that really becomes the whole building itself. And other examples that I come to my mind is the Renzo Piano Hermes in Tokyo, for example, where the structure is somehow it's with the pillars, if I remember well, and the facade is left free to be an ornament, to be a screen or a barrier, a margin between the outside and the inside, and it at the same time is a real wall. It's a real material and it has a thickness, but it's also in fact an ornament. So I think it's what I find mostly interesting is it's when this definition of ornament becomes thinner and thinner to become the architecture itself, in a way. Also the Chanel by MVRDV with the use of the glass bricks, that it's clearly metallic and even structural, I think, but it's at the same time a clear try of transmitting and conveying an ornamental facade somehow.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Gino, you want to?
I think that this lesson could be really interesting for the students, maybe also to define the final part of the project. And I think that is really interesting also the kind of ambiguity that we can see between ornament and detail, maybe. Because a lot of time the study of the detail in architecture become an ornament expression, but maybe the architecture don't start from create an ornament, but the detail become an ornament. So this is really interesting. And in this way, I think that is also interesting, say what Peter Zumthor say about the detail, that if we create something that is in continuity with the building, we don't create an ornament, but we create the architecture.
Yes, this question of continuity can be discussed, because sometimes it's the discontinuity that makes the ornament interesting. No? There's are two different ways that we can find interesting examples of the two lines, I think. No? The perfect continuity, but also the strong discontinuity, the separation from the facade in the structure of the buildings, for example. But it's true that now it's important for students to imagine some details, not all details, but maybe some details that are strategic to develop their project. The interesting aspect of the drawings of the book is that they choose the interesting details. They are not interested, generally speaking, in details. They just discover what is the details that generate the form, the character of that architecture. So maybe in any project there are some details that are strategic, that are absolutely where you decide the quality of the building, of the project.
Yeah, because maybe this kind of detail can lead the expression, the form, the image of the building.
Exactly.
I remember a book about Miller and Maranta, the architecture concrete in detail, that show how the concrete building, that is, okay, it is a concrete building, but how it is did, what is the expression, what is the treatment of the concrete to express the building. So this maybe would be a detail, but also an ornament. I don't know. It's something in the middle.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that in this case, with this new concept of ornament that Professor Rocca showed us, we can say that detailing, the act of detailing and the ornamentation could be seen as the same thing. I don't see so much differences now between these two aspects. If you interpret, of course, the ornament as the function of the ornament, that is the very important thing. That could be a practical function, a symbolic function, also a branding function. So it's not something that must be so rationalist. But at the same time, I think that the art of detailing, that is the one that students are going to develop, is perfectly within this trail. If I can give a suggestion to the students, I really appreciate the book of Mostafavi. For this reason, I've uploaded it on here on chat, so everyone could download it through WeTransfer, because it is very heavy. Also because, as Professor Rocca said, it is interesting how they treated detail. So it is a detailing that is not the one that you can find on the magazines like Detail, that is about the technical detail. This is the detail that makes the space, or that makes the facade, or that makes. So it's not represented to give importance to the let's say technical system, but how the technical system could be perceived. So I think it's very interesting. And if I give a suggestion to the students, to me, teaching interior architecture, the only weak point is that in that case is only the detail of the public facade, let's say, or the exterior facade. Maybe in your drawing you could also complement this with the interior detailing, that is in some cases also very, very interesting in defining which is the character of the building.
Yeah. Okay, maybe if there is no further question, can we make a coffee break? 10 minutes, and we restart with the Jacopo.
Okay, at 11:15. Okay.
11:15. Okay.
Okay. See you later.
See you later.